Hey, Sector's here. So I just reviewed Marshmello's debut album Joytime. So now I'm going to review the sequel, Joytime II, which came out in 2018. So at the time of this album's release in 2018, Mello had already had a bunch of hits, and the public eye was definitely more on him than it was when he released his debut album. So surely Mello's second album would be better than the first, with more production and more effort put into it, making a really solid, cohesive project that all of his fans would enjoy. But this album was not that. The album's opener is Stars, and it is not a good track. I don't like the melody, and it relies on that in the drop, which isn't very helpful, especially considering that the melody has so much spacing between some of the notes that when the drop relies heavily on this melody and there's nothing else happening, it means there's just like empty spaces of the drop. It just sounds unfinished and it's very boring to listen to. With a runtime of 4 minutes, it is just a pain to get through. The next track is Together, and it is just a better version of Stars. I mean this in the literal sense, because both Stars and Together are the exact same length, down to the millisecond, with the exact same structure. It's almost like Mello didn't want to make another song from scratch, so he just copied the project file over and then just changed all the elements of it, but kept the same structure. It is basically the same song, except better. Rooftops is easily the most frustrating track on this album. I usually enjoy Mello's vocal performances, and this one is no different. I really enjoy the vocals sections here, and it has the potential to be a great track. But the drops here are just some of Mello's worst. They sound like amateur, honestly. It's really disappointing. It's very obvious that Mello is capable of making high quality production. See his radio hits. But it's like he just didn't want to put in the effort here and made one of his worst drops ever. Check This Out is a track that definitely has the first Joytime feel to it, but it does take a different direction than the tracks from that album, which I respect. It opts for a vocal-based drop where it just cuts up the phrase check this out. I mean, I see what he was going for, but the check this out sample repeats so much that it's very annoying, especially in the second drop where the cuts become more rapid and it just sounds like a mess. Flashbacks is yet another weak cut from this album. I actually found the vocal sample in this one to be annoying, which isn't usually an issue I've had with any of the Joytime tracks. Even though he in the past has used like those high-pitched vocal samples, I really have not been annoyed by them until this song. Similar to Rooftops, this feels very amateur, especially in the drops. I'm really not sure what Mello is thinking in this track, because the lead here is just so goofy. It doesn't sound like it was even remotely taken seriously. I don't understand why he made the track this way. It just sounds so amateur. We know Mello is capable of doing much better. Tell Me is a decent track, and it is the one I have the least to say about. There is nothing really annoying here, but there also isn't like anything making me want to come back to this ever. It's just kind of there. Paralyzed is another disappointing song. The vocal performance Mello provides here is probably his worst. It's noticeably worse than Rooftops. The build-ups in this track are really like oddly high energy, and it seems like it's gonna go into something heavier, in all honesty. But it just goes into a really disappointing drop. It has the same problem Stars does, where the melody is like just spaced apart in places. And then once again, the drop just focuses on that. So it just results in a bunch of empty space in the drop, and it's not good. Power is absolutely the standout track of this album for me. It has a fun melody, and I really do love the drops. The lead he used is like, it's weird, but it works extremely well, and I think it's honestly a really good track. Imagine is one of the more stylistically different tracks of the album, opting for more of a Moomba track. But it's also really boring. The drops just feel anticlimactic. And I guess while the melody's nice, it just doesn't do anything for me. And it's extremely forgettable. It honestly sounds like a song you would hear on like some Roblox game. Joytime 2 came out nearly 2.5 years after the original Joytime. And in that time, Mello's style changed drastically, becoming more radio friendly with songs such as Wolves, Friends, and Silence. I feel like this album was made to satisfy the fans who wanted the old Joytime style back from Mello. And while I get that, it really just does feel like a very lazy pandering to that audience. The entire album just seems lazy, rushed, and unpolished. Some even feel unfinished. Part of what makes me believe this, I've discussed earlier, is how Stars and Together are basically the same song, same exact length, same exact structure. He just changed the melodies and stuff. I don't know. I don't think he put much effort into this album whatsoever. Power is really the only track here that I think Mello actually put a decent amount of effort into, which is really sad to see. I would have loved to hear what Mello could have come up with if he had actually really tried on this album. There's just not much here. It's a noticeable downgrade from the original Joytime, which had a clear vision of what it wanted to be, and it was produced well. Here, the album has a cohesive theme to it, but it's just poorly produced. It's just not a good album in the slightest. This is absolutely a 3 out of 10 for me. There's some hints of enjoyment like Power, but most of it is just pure disappointment. But I would love to know what you think about this album. Feel free to put your thoughts in the comments. If there's any other albums you want me to take a look at, also feel free to put those in the comments. Thanks for watching. See ya.